welcome. And we are very thankful to you that you are with us today just to enrich our knowledge. And uh, we have Manju ma'am, our Dean Academics, with us. Kindly, ma'am, Manju ma'am,
Yes,
kindly.
thank you, Andrina. First of all, on behalf of IMS Noida Management, I would really like to thanks to Ms. J.M. Buckler, who have graced the occasion today and spare time to enlighten us with the language of communication or English language, I can say. I would really be thankful to Miss Maria and Miss Julia, who has given the session yesterday, and it was a wonderful session. We are looking forward from Miss J.M. Buckler. I mean Miss J.M. Buckler, who will be there with us today to give us more insight about English communication and why this English language is more important for professional development. Because I rightly says that students have the technical skills, they have their subject knowledge, but if they are not good in communication, or they are not able to write good English, so somewhere they are lacking in terms of their own career paths. So which is very important, because nowadays multinational companies are entering into the into the entire business paradigm. So when you are entering into the business, be it an entrepreneur or maybe into your job, English is very, very essential, right? This is one of the most important language, and of course it is a global language. So I'm sure would be very much enlightened with the Ms. J.M. Buckler, who will be giving us more insight about the topic and the subject. And I'm sure student must be enjoying this session for last 2 days, because I seen Miss Maria has given fantastic information about the idioms, and she rightly mentioned that this is one of the important, that how to communicate, because knowing English is one thing, but then how to communicate, that is again very important. So heartily welcome to you, ma'am, for today's session on behalf of IMS Noida. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. So, a brief introduction about myself. My name is J.M. Buckler. I am the author of the award winning and best selling Seeker of Time series, a game changer in the young adult marketplace. I weave electric storytelling along with helpful takeaways into my writing that allows readers to get more than an escape from reality while reading. I've been featured in top media, including NBC, ABC, and Fox News, as well as national and international magazines like Women's World, First for Women, and Forbes magazine. One of my greatest passions in life is helping others realize that they always have the power to rewrite their story. I'm an educator and a mentor at the Key to Free, a nonprofit organization that combats sex trafficking. And I'm currently located in the beautiful state of Texas, here in the United States, where I am married to my husband and we live with our 7-year-old son. So that's a little brief info about me. So today's chat is probably going to be a little bit different than the other ones that you have witnessed. I do things very differently than most. Today, I'm going to talk to you about writing as a tool for healing and what exactly that means. So to start, just so you know how I actually stumbled upon writing as a tool for healing, or expressive writing, as Dr. James Pennebaker has coined the term. In my early 20s, I was in and out of college and in and out of jobs, constantly searching for happiness outside of myself. And here in the United States, it's preferred if the youth go to high school, graduate high school, go to college, get a good paying job, get married, and start a family. And most people fit into that mold. And I had nothing against it. I was very excited to start that path. But along that path, I realized I was constantly searching for happiness outside of myself. And I was a miserable person because of it. I could never keep a job because I would get bored. I switched my major here at the University of Texas in Austin multiple times, from nursing to education to psychology to business, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I realized what I was doing was I kept trying to conform to that mold. And obviously, without anyone mentioning or raising their hands, you have to ask yourself, how many of you are here today because you want to be here, versus because someone perhaps in your family or someone that has an influence over you wants you to be here. And so I was in the middle, sitting in class one day in college, and something just hit. I realized I was not living my authentic self. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. I was doing what society wanted me to do. So I left. And it was terrifying because for the first time in my life, I stepped into the unknown, this place of, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And I haven't found my passion. And it was very scary. And it's very difficult for someone to take that leap of faith and to say, okay, I'm going to start living for me and not for everyone else. And it was challenging because right away I was afraid of what my family would think, what my friends would think, that here I was in my early 20s and I didn't have a college degree. I had plenty of debt to go along with it, but no degree. But I accepted it. I accepted that. I said, you know what? It's okay to not know sometimes. And a few days later, I woke up with the idea for my trilogy that I have published in my mind. But the problem that happened is the self-doubt started just talking in my ear of saying, well, you don't have a literature degree. You didn't finish college. You don't know how to write a book. And so for 4 years, I dealt with that self-doubt until one day my husband, who I'll always be grateful for, said, you know, what do you have to lose? Just write. So I actually Googled how to write a book, which I don't recommend doing. And I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I knew I had a story to tell. So I just sat there and I started writing, and it was not easy. It wasn't easy at all. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have the technical skills to write. And literature has changed so much over the years. And especially here in the States, it can be very, very challenging as far as sentence structure and grammar and punctuation goes. Some editors prefer one style while others prefer another. Well, like I mentioned, I didn't have the training. So I was just getting the words out and writing. But then life happened and I got pregnant and I had a very, very difficult delivery and I slipped into a depression afterward. And then I had a chronic illness manifest, and that sent me even further into a depression. And I stopped writing. And then we moved, thinking that, you know, if you run away from your problems, that might help, which was a life lesson I had to learn. And I was so frustrated, and I was such in a low place. I just said, well, I'll start writing and see what happens. And what happened was I started channeling all of the negativity and the emotions I was experiencing into my characters and into my writing. And though it's a fictional story, and though it takes place in a fantasy world, it was very personal because I was allowing my characters to go through stuff that I was afraid to look at in my own life. And shortly after, the physical illness that I was experiencing started to go away. The depression I was experiencing started to lift. And the writing was still very slow, though. So I saw there was a void in the marketplace in young adult literature. And I saw that there was plenty of books that were a great escape, lots of them, as you can see on my shelves here. I had always been an avid reader, but I couldn't relate to the characters. I couldn't relate to these fictional stories. And I said, wait a second, but I bet I can write one that gives powerful lessons to readers that will help them in their own lives, almost like a secret self-help book. And I am a very spiritual person. And I prayed one night and I said, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. I don't even know how to write this book, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get these messages out into the world if this is what I'm supposed to do. So I woke up the next morning and I finished my first book in 2 weeks, my second one in a month, and my third book in 13 days. And it was such a revelation, such a aha moment for me to realize, okay, this is what I must be doing. But even once you find your passion in life, it's not always easy. It takes work. So I was mind blown with the mental, physical, and even the spiritual healing that had taken place while writing. And I wondered, was this a real thing, or was this just something I had personally experienced? Because I had never heard of anyone healing physically from writing. So I started working with at-risk youth in our community, and I started giving them writing exercises. And what I noticed, and what therapists started to notice, is that they were healing as well. So with my publicist's help, she connected me with some top doctors all around the world in the industry. Dr. James Pennebaker, Dr. Michael Finkelstein, and Dr. Kenneth Pelletier. And Dr. James Pennebaker was here actually at the University of Texas. And I found out that he has been studying expressive writing for 30 years. So what is expressive writing? It is the act of writing out your feelings without worrying about sentence structure, grammar, or punctuation. It's like opening a pressure valve and everything comes out. And so many people tell me, I don't journal, I don't do diaries, I don't like to do that. And I tell them it's much more than that. And I'm going to give you some examples to prove how this scientifically works. So, everyone experiences frustrations in their life, whether today, maybe you had an altercation with someone, or someone cut you off in traffic, or you're incredibly stressed for an exam coming up. We can build a lot of resentments, and resentments that we might not even know or aware of. So let's just say, let me just give you a little anecdote. So say you were on your way to class and you did have an altercation with someone, and you might have gotten heated or frustrated for a few minutes, and then you were like, okay, you get to class and you're focused on class and you're not even thinking about what happened in the morning. And then you get home that night and you're trying to study and you're like, why is this so challenging? Why am I not retaining this information? And you go on, next day you take the exam and you didn't get the best marks. And you wonder why. Well, what Dr. Pennebaker has discovered is that these trapped resentments, these trapped emotions that we're not expressing, actually have a huge effect on your sleep and on your memory and on retaining information. So I have developed a month, I don't want to say a training session, but kind of like a month guide of how to do expressive writing that will alleviate and will remove all of those resentments and allow you to actually be here now in the present. So I'll give you a couple examples of Dr. Pennebaker's, some of the studies that he did here at the University of Texas. For example, he had a student who was straight A's 4.0 at the University of Texas. And 2 years after the student left the school, he ran into him and he said, how's school going? And the kid said, well, not too good. I dropped out. Dr. Pennebaker said, well, why is that? And he said, I just started failing every test. I have test anxiety out of nowhere. And Dr. Pennebaker said, do you mind if I do some research on you? Because he was studying expressive writing. The kid was like, all right, that's fine. So Dr. Pennebaker hooked him up to a heart rate monitor to measure his heartbeat. And he was starting to ask him questions. And it was very interesting because sometimes the body can physically react much differently than what the mind is thinking. And he sat him down, he started asking him questions that he assumed was going to stress him out about school. And the kid looked very uncomfortable, but his heart rate was normal. It did not rise, it did not lower. He asked him about relationships. He had recently just broken up with his girlfriend, and his pulse, it barely went up. So Dr. Pennebaker was like, what is going on? So then he asked him about his parents. And the kid was like, oh, I have a great relationship with my parents, but his heart rate spiked. And so Dr. Pennebaker went, So he started asking him more questions. And he said, when this testing anxiety, right before it started, what were you doing? And he said, oh, I went home for summer break to see my parents. And his heart rate went up even higher. And so the doctor said, well, tell me about that. So the student told him that when he got home, his house was empty. And it was empty because his parents had gotten divorced and they didn't tell him. So after more therapy with the student, Dr. Pennebaker found out that that is exactly what triggered the testing anxiety. And the student would have never known. So Dr. Pennebaker had him start doing expressive writing about that event. It was traumatic and he didn't even know. And shortly after, the kid re-enrolled in school and the testing anxiety was gone. Another study that he did was a group here in, I believe it was here in Texas. A large company had laid off a bunch of employees who had been there for around 30 plus years. So he took those who had been laid off and he split them into two groups. And he had one group write for 6 weeks about their emotions, what they experienced when they were laid off. And the other group, he had just keep on writing, keep on doing their everyday thing, do not write. But he had each groups look for a new job. Every single person who wrote got a new job. The people who did not write didn't get a job. And what he found out is those who were writing and they went in for interviews, they were happier, they were relaxed, they were talking about the future, and they never mentioned what happened when they were laid off. The other group, when they went for interviews, were very bitter. And the future employers that they wanted to work for didn't want to hire them because they kept referring to how upset they were that the old employer had laid them off. So as you can see, so many of these resentments we harbor can really hinder us in our future, and we might not even know about them. So Dr. Pennebaker, and I quote him, he says, why this works is because consolidating thoughts into writing calms an overactive mind that helps us organize and extract meaning from stressful events. It's very, very different than talking to someone. Therapy is fantastic. When I was working with him briefly, he mentioned that even if you go to therapy, there is fear of being judged. You know, we all have that best friend we pick up the phone and call when something goes wrong in our life or when there's something we need to share personally, confide in. But even then, there's a fear of being judged. We want to make sure we kind of cater the conversation so our friend or our therapist is siding with us. Whereas writing, I call it, it's the prescription you can write yourself because it's free and it's private. And the mind, with actually, if you're typing or if you're writing, there's a much higher I guess you could say it's going to improve, your overall well-being will improve versus speaking. And he's even mic'd people who did the expressive writing for 6 weeks. And before they did it, they weren't very talkative. They were quiet. And afterwards with the mic, he was analyzing their voice. They were more chatty. They were more positive. They were more excited to speak with people. Let's see. So another doctor that I had the privilege of interviewing was Dr. Kenneth Pelletier. And this man is known worldwide. He even did a conference with the Dalai Lama. And he has spent his life studying epigenetics, which is the study of changes in organisms caused by the modification of gene expression rather than the altercation of the genetic code, which means basically he has found that our genetics do not define us, meaning if you had blood work done and they did genetic testing and saw that you had a chance of becoming diabetic, Dr. Kenneth Pelletier says, no, that's not true anymore. That does not guarantee that you're going to become diabetic. There are things we can do in our life that do not involve medication that can, from flipping on a light switch, you can change your genetic code. And expressive writing is one of those things that he has discovered that does that. Dr. Finkelstein is another doctor. He's the author of Slow Medicine, Hope, and Chronic Illness. He was the one who said it's like an abscess. Unless it's opened, there's no exit for infection and the pain grows. Expression is the key to healing. So what's been so interesting is I started out with just wanting to write a book, and then I saw how it changed me physically, mentally, and spiritually. And then I saw how it started to change others, which led me to connect with these top doctors in the industry, which helped me discover the science that actually proved it. And now I am able to work with at-risk youth, these survivors of sex trafficking, and teach these tools and let them heal as well. The girls that I currently work with at the nonprofit, The psychiatrists that see them regularly say they have seen a marked difference in their mental health with doing the expressive writing. A lot of times I encourage people to write about a traumatic event in their life, which is hard to do sometimes. And what I have learned is if you create a fictional character, if you give that character a name, it takes the personalization away from yourself and you can write out that experience through a character and it still has the same healing effects. So you might be sitting here going, how is this going to affect me? How does this help? What does this have to do with the English language? Well, it has everything to do with the English language. This could be a great practice technique for you actually writing in English, as well as you're going to be healing yourself. Your memory is going to improve. This is going to help with school. This is going to help with getting a job. This is going to help with your personal life. A lot of authors reach out to me and say, how do you deal with writer's block? I can't get over writer's block. And that's not just for writers, or authors. That's for people who are writing papers, writing thesis, in school, at work, trying to put together an email. That moment where you're staring at that cursor going, why aren't the words coming? That's a block. I tell authors, it's not a block with your story. It's not a block with your project or your thesis. It's an emotional block. It's something in here. And that's why the expressive writing can be so helpful. Because you can take a minute and step away and you can just start writing about your day and you'll be surprised at what you'll discover. Ask yourself questions. Why am I feeling this way? What happened today? Do I have any resentments? Am I still mad at my mother? Am I still frustrated with my father? Why haven't I spoken to my brother in so long? And you'll see all of these things start to come up. And it only takes 15 minutes a day. So I encourage you, if you have notes and you want to jot this down, here's my 4 weeks to success so you can start seeing a huge difference in your life, is for week 1, just do a free flow writing of your day. You do not, like I said, and this is great practice for those of you who are starting to write in English, it's very simple. You don't have to worry about the grammar and the punctuation. Just get the thoughts out of your mind onto paper and just start writing what you did that day. What emotions came up? This isn't a journal of I woke up, I made my bed, I ate breakfast, I went to school. It's how did you feel on your way to school? Were you concerned about the exam? Why were you concerned? Were you afraid of failing? Why are you afraid of failing? Because you won't pass. What happens if you don't pass? And you'll start to see where all these fears are rooted and where they come from. Week 2, you write 15 minutes a day about a traumatic event that has happened in your life. Everyone has had traumas. It doesn't have to be some massive trauma, but small traumas add up over time. And write about that trauma. And it will be challenging. And if it's too challenging, like I mentioned earlier, give it a character and let the character go through it. And then week 3 is very important. Week 3 is taking that trauma and rewriting that story. Rewrite it in a way where you're asking yourself, what could you have done differently? What would you do differently if you were in that situation now? How would you handle it? And you'll see the growth that you've had, and that could be very healing. And then for week 4, write about your future. A lot of people do vision boards, and vision boards are great, but you need to go deeper than that. When I first started writing, I was in a 6-week program, and my mentor at the time had us write 3, 6 months, and a year in advance of where we wanted to see ourselves in our life. And there was no dream too small. You could do whatever you wanted. And for authors, a lot of goals are to become best-selling, award-winning, all of that stuff. And he said, write it all down. Well, the writing it down was uncomfortable, but what was even more uncomfortable is he had us read it in a mirror. And that was very challenging. Every day for 6 weeks, I had to read all of these desires in a mirror. And what happened is I noticed I started feeling guilty for wanting these things, or the self-doubt would come in of, you're never going to be a best-selling author. You don't know how to do this. And what it forced you to do is get over that self-doubt. And by the end of the 6 weeks, I was reading in the mirror with such confidence, saying this was going to happen. And I'm a firm believer that what we hold in mind tends to manifest. And you know what happened? 3 months, 6 months, and a year, everything I said on that list happened. And so I really encourage you to try this technique because, like I said, not only has it been proven scientifically, but I experienced it myself along with the at-risk youth that I work with in the community. So that was what I had wanted to speak with you guys today with the writing as a tool for healing. I love taking questions. If you have any questions, please ask for the moderator who's ever here. If you have any questions for me, would like me to steer the conversation another way, please tell me. I am here for you.
I would request you to ask the questions if someone has. Kindly put your questions in the chat box.
Let me see. Okay.
Rajiv sir.
I see the participants, but yeah, if there's any questions, it'll come in the chat box, correct?
Hello.
Uh-huh.
Hello, ma'am. Yeah. Am I audible?
I can hear.
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Beckler, to be a part of this healthy conversation which we are discussing right now. I just want to ask you, ma'am, a few questions. Like, as you said, writing improves us in not only healing us. So can the words also heal us sometime, or sometime writing improve us? Can the affirmation also help us while we do chanting or we do prayers? We can write prayers, we can do affirmations in our writing also, day and night, and before sleeping and waking up early in the morning. If we do chanting, affirmations, or we can do writing part, it can heal us. In the same way also, can we do it orally also? As you said, it all happens in writing part. So can we do it orally also? If it is there something in orally, can you guide us? How can we do orally? Because in written, it improves day by day. As you said, in first week, it's a free flow writing. Second week, it's handling your maniac in life, small traumas, and define the characters and try to solve them. Then how to take your traumas in life and rewriting it in a positive characters. It's all about characterization. It's like a mental movie techniques which is going in our mind. So how can we write in a very positive way, and how can we manifest positive thinkings in our mind? Can the word heal us, or can the songs, music, or this thing heal us?
Yes.
Can you please guide us, ma'am, on this?
Yes. So it's the mental, physical, and spiritual. What Dr. Pennebaker discovered in his research is that orally speaking it aloud does not have the same healing effects as actually pen to paper or typing. He even said that laying in bed at night, a lot of times we have what's called the monkey mind, where you lay there and you can't sleep. Why? Because you have the list of things you need to do the next day, which we've all experienced, right? If you take the time to get up and just keep a pen and paper by your bed and just write down the things, you'll be surprised that you go to bed like that right after. But yes, it's the act, the chanting and the prayers, that is hitting the spiritual aspect. But for the physical and the mental healing, you need to physically be writing. And there's a lot of belief systems in the world that we need to only focus on the positive. And it's great to focus on the positive. But for the healing to occur, sometimes we have to go back and reopen wounds that are painful, and we have to write about them. Because if we write about them, we're getting them out. And then they're out of us and we don't have to revisit them. And a lot of times when we write about a trauma, it will help us see it with a new set of eyes, and we'll have a different perspective on it than we did 20 years ago when the trauma happened to us. You might see it a lot differently and be like, you know what, it's not as big of a deal as I thought it was. Or it'll help you find possibly forgiveness or compassion to the person, not forgiving them necessarily for what happened, but forgiving yourself. So yes, it is crucial to actually physically write out the words, because it does something to the brain. That or typing versus orally speaking.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Mm-hmm. Let me see if there's one here. Anyone else, please jump in.
Yes, Buckler, I have got one question.
Yes, sir.
In comparison to our oral communication, we say writing is having much more healing effect, or it is same or something. If we compare it from the oral communication, writing is having same kind of effect or not? Your own experience, you may share some insight on what it.
Yes. So you're asking orally versus physically writing, the difference that I have experienced. Is that correct?
Yeah, actually, I once attended a workshop in which it
Uh-huh.
was said if you have certain grief over your heart, you should unburden it. Share it with anything, whether it's animate or inanimate. And earlier time, we used to write the diary, dear diary, like that. We used to unburden ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a kind of relieving of the pain and the anguish which was undergoing in our, or which was just tormenting our hearts. But do you think that writing, any kind of writing, will be serving the same kind of healing purpose, or there is some specific writing is required?
Absolutely. That's what is the beauty with this technique is it's a lot of people are intimidated to get started with it because they say, writer, I don't know how to do this, or perhaps you're uncomfortable writing in English. And you don't have to write in English, obviously, just because this, I was saying it could be helpful if you're practicing with English. But you don't even have to do complete sentences. It doesn't have to even be something that's very challenging for people to write about as well is when they feel anger towards someone. We're all human, right? We have egos. It's very easy when someone's cut you off in traffic to think for a second, I hate that person right now. I'm very, very mad. I'm very mad. If I saw them, I might want to punch them in the face. Would you do it? No, but the thought might have come up, right? That's resentment. And little tiny things like that add up over time. So that's why if you were home later that evening and you're writing about your day, instead of saying, I went to school, got on the bus to go to school, I rode my bike to school, however you get to school, and someone cut me off, or just saying I went to school, you would say, I went to school and this person cut me off and I wanted to punch him in the face because I was so frustrated with them. And why did I feel that way? Well, because I was already running late to school, and now I was even more late, and I got class and I flustered, and the professor was where the healing starts, because you start to get all of that out. And once it's out, it's done. And it's not just sitting there festering and festering. And that's what these doctors have found is a lot of these autoimmune diseases and cancer, especially, is from people with resentments. And it could be resentments from your childhood or today. I'm a happy person. I'm not upset with anything. No, that's not. In most cases, that's not true. In most cases, you have frustrations with people or with things that have happened in your life, suppressed guilt, and it can manifest into illnesses later on. So that's why, going back to Dr. Kenneth Pelletier, the epigenetics doctor, saying that no, you can change your genetic code. You can get this stuff out. Just because you're predetermined to have diabetes doesn't mean you're going to have it anymore. A few years ago, that's what people thought. No, it's in their genetic code. It's going to happen. That's not the case anymore. So yeah, just write. That's what I tell people. Don't make it more complicated than it is. Just write your feelings. Don't write your day-to-day what you did. Write your emotions on it.
Thank you so much. One more question is there. As people have been writing diaries, so do you think that today's writing is having same kind of impact over the healing, or diary writing was much more effective?
Any writing, I never until
Can
I
we have
published
some
my books
relative
and
comparison?
discovered that what I was doing was expressive writing. Oh, say that again.
Can we have some relative comparison between the writing and writing which has
So it keeps I get every word. Can you try one more time?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello.
I can hear you now.
Yes. My question is actually, as in the earlier times, we used to have only diary writing,
Okay.
specific. We used to pour down our heart over there, and now, as you say, that any kind of writing. So, any relative comparison is there that this is more effective into that one? Any specific genre?
Oh, no, I wouldn't say there's a specific that I am aware of. The diary writing is fine. Any writing, as long as you're writing, as long as it's emotional writing, just writing a list, a task of things you need to do or things you want. For example, in the week 4, when you're writing about your future, kind of like the verbal vision board, it's so much deeper. Don't just say, I want to graduate, I want to get this degree, I want to practice law, and then I want to, get a house. No, 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 no. It's after you get that law degree, how do you feel? When you want to buy that house, what does that house look like? What do you feel like when you walk into that home for the first time? What do you feel like
There
when
is
you
some
meet?
sense of belongingness, which interests us a lot. As we possess something and we have the ownership of anything, that's a property, and it is kind of giving a kind of satisfaction that I own this property and this is my belonging. So that may be a sense of belonging, which is just giving us some healing effect for that.
It could be, yes, as long, but I'm also believe that happiness isn't found outside of ourselves. So even though you've worked very hard to get those things that you desire, that is not, those things aren't going to make you happy, right? Happiness is found in here. So
Yeah.
we can be grateful for the new house that
I
our.
think this is something which is also having resemblance with the thinking of Tennyson. I think you must have heard of about this poet.
Mhm.
Tennyson, he was a Victorian poet. He said that there is nothing good in nature, there is nothing happiness as such in nature. It is our perception which makes you happy.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, one can, yeah, Milton also says the same thing. Mind can make a heaven of hell and hell of heaven. So it is our perception, it is our thinking which makes the thing like that way.
Yes.
Otherwise, how far it is true in this, in terms of writing?
Say that one more time. I'm so sorry. It keeps breaking up.
Yeah, how far is it true in terms of writing actually? As we say that perception makes us happy. It is the perception actually, and not the thing or object which is making you happy. So,
Yes.
so here in also in this case of writing, it's a perception, or as we are unburdening or we are just relieving us of our pain through writing, it is really giving us some healing effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. Rajiv has got one more question, ma'am. Can you address it?
Yes.
Question is, how can we cut our false ego, and how can we develop gratitude and compassion in writing?
Say at the beginning one more time.
And how can we just kill our false ego?
Mm.
Yeah, at
Say in the
Yes.
times,
chat. You can read it from the chat also, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's put his question over there also.
Hold on, it's opening. Oh, it's actually the chat. Oh, there it is. I apologize. Okay. How can we cut our false ego? Yes, that's one of the beauties of it. And that's what I was talking about with ego wanting all of these desires, with ego holding these resentments, with ego not allowing us to forgive people because we get that juice of feeling that we're justified. We have a justified resentment towards someone and we deserve to be mad. That is what we can work through with writing, and that can help us. That's why writing about traumas are so helpful, because when someone wrongs us, we immediately hold a resentment, a justified resentment, and we immediately want to either get revenge or see something, have them go through something tough, so we can say, so ego can say, ha, now you know how it feels. Well, the writing, that's why I want you asking yourself questions during it, saying, okay, this person did this to me. Why does that upset me? And it always goes back to ego, of I was offended, or that physically hurt me. Sometimes sexual, physical traumas are very challenging for people to see their attacker with compassion or forgiveness, but we have to remember that everyone in the world is doing the best they can, even if we don't agree with it, even if it's, quote, wrong what they're doing, is they don't know any better. And forgiving yourself is the greatest gift you can give yourself, because it's unlocking that chain of keeping you attached to that person for the rest of your life. So with the writing and asking yourself questions with the expressive writing, and just instead of just saying, I have been friends with so-and-so, for 20 years, and our friendship ended because she did this or he did this to me, period. That's not expressive writing. That's just stating what happened. Expressive writing is saying, how did you feel about it? What did you want to do to the person when they hurt you, either mentally or physically or both? How did you feel? What would you say to them now if you could? Why are you holding on to that? Why are you juicing it? What are you getting out of that? What's that little payoff that ego is getting of feeling justified? So that to me is how we can, move further toward enlightenment, let go of how we can develop more gratitude and compassion to others is through the writing. A lot of times when I have been writing about a trauma, after about 5 or so days of spending 15 minutes a day writing about it, ego gets tired of it. It's bored. Ego loves the drama. And when you consistently go back to it and write and write and write, I could see myself being like, oh my gosh, I was clinging to that for no reason. And I do have the power to let it go. And we all have the power to let it go like that. We just choose to hold on to it. So that is one of the things that has helped me with the expressive writing and has helped me really, it gives me a lot of self-reflection, which is the most healing part, I believe.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
I can.
I just want to ask this question, ma'am. You said mind is like a monkey mind. So we often talk about a monkey mind because it doesn't, wait and still at one place. So how can we control our thoughts? Because effective communication is all about clarity of thought and clarity of speech. Now, when we are writing something, how can we focus on writing the positive part of things, as you said, taking out of yourself through the traumas and writing a positive character, sketching them like a superheroes or superwomen. And so how can we sketch those things into our mind and develop a kind of critical thinking so that it works for us to think it a positive way, avoiding that monkey mind and using it in a very disciplined kind of, thinking. How can we deal with it?
The best thing with the monkey mind to calm it down is to first just write in what's called stream of consciousness writing, where you're sitting there either at the computer or with a pen and paper. Just write every thought that's coming to mind. I'm sitting, like if I was to do it right now, right? If I was just writing, it would be like, I'm sitting, I'm sitting here talking to these students. Hopefully I can answer their questions right. And then you'll see the mind will jump. And it'll be like, my coffee's probably gone cold now. Oh, I hope my kid's feeling better because my kid was sick last night. What do I need to get done today? You can see it's jumping, it's jumping, it's jumping. But the actual writing or the typing is going to start to compartmentalize all of that. And it's going to focus it and calm it down. And that's why I say when you're struggling to study, to write, you've got a paper you're focusing on, a thesis, anything like that, get that monkey mind to calm down just by writing it all out. And you'll see the monkey mind will start to jump, and then it's going to focus on one thought, something that's bothering you, or something that you're excited about, or something that might be causing you a mild distress. Something as simple as like, man, this chair I'm sitting on is really uncomfortable. And then it'll focus it into one thought. And then when you're focused on one thought, that monkey mind is calmed down. And then you'll notice when you get back to whatever you're working on, you're going to be more positive. You're going to be more relaxed. You're going to retain more information, and the clarity will be there, and you'll be able to focus.
I hope there is no other query from any other participant. Is there any other query? Hello. So, ma'am, we are really grateful to you that you have spared your time. And because of this session, you have woken up so early and you
I
have
did.
got up so early because I know that you have got up around 4 there,
About
and that's why
3:30.
you
Yeah.
have been able to just take this session. Yeah, actually, she has got up at around 4 a.m. According to Indian time, 4 a.m. IST, and we are really, ma'am, thankful, and we do not know how to repay in words the gratitude which we have for you, and we are really indebted to you forever and ever, and will remain so forever and ever, because you have taken so much pains and make all the efforts to take this session for us and enlighten us.
My
And
pleasure.
we would like to remain connected. Wish you have the long-lasting association with IMS Center for International Languages, and would like to seek your guidance, your necessary, whenever there is a some sort of you want to contribute in terms of suggestions. So you are, ma'am, most welcome for the same.
Yes. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for having me. And please reach
So
out
Rajiv
when.
sir, would you like to say something on this occasion?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, please, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ms. Buckler. And it's really nice listening to you. And your thoughts are really which re-engineered us. And we are trying to, pace ourselves with the ways you have discussed the things like the kind of free writing techniques or the 4 weeks program which you have discussed with us. So we try to follow this thing like a free flow of writing. I like that very much, and how to come out of the traumas in life and how to shape the positive characters, rewriting it, re-engineering it into positive manifestation in writing. So really wonderful, ma'am, and we really like it. Thanks to once again for for with us and for with our IMS family, and looking for a positive associations with us in future also. Thank you so much, ma'am, and wishing you a
Thank
very happy new year. Take care and Hare Krishna, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sir, shall we end up the meeting?